India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi is all set to visit United States next week, likely between 12th and 14th of February. As much as it is a crucial visit for both countries, remember it comes amid a plethora of issues that overshadow not just this meeting but the Indo-US ties as well. Despite the fact that in the past we have seen Prime Minister Modi and President Trump's bonhomie, from hugs and handshakes to holding mega gatherings in each other's countries, there are heightened concerns of India regarding tariffs, US aid being stopped completely, H-1B visas and illegal immigration. Over 200 plus illegals of reportedly Indian nationality have been sent back, and more are expected to return, considering there are about 18,000 of them in the United States of America. These illegals have been given their final removal orders and are now set to be deported on a military aircraft. Meanwhile, the Trump administration is at war with one of its own agencies, the U.S. Agency for International Development, also known as USAID. The White House is clear that it wants to cut down on unnecessary expenditure, and Trump's special government employee, as he's called, Elon Musk, has called USAID as a radical left political psyop. In fact, Musk has been asked to eradicate USAID, first by shutting down its website, then by asking its employees to stay out of its Washington office, and finally by announcing the Secretary of State Marco Rubio as the acting administrator of the agency, despite USAID being an independent body since its inception in 1961. India, remember, has been a beneficiary of USAID as well, right from funds in food, health, rural development and education sectors. Now, amid all of this, the tariff threat, remember, still looms large despite the kind of deals that Donald Trump has struck with Canada and Mexico. So the big question that we're asking tonight is whether the Modi-Trump friendship will reflect in Donald Trump's actions towards India. To talk more on this, on the broadcast, I'm joined by Dr. Swasti Rao. She's a non-resident fellow Eastern Circles. Ambassador Ashok Sajjanhar is joining us. And Lisa Curtis, Director of Indo-Pacific Security Program at the Center for New American Security, is also joining us. Good evening and namaskar to all of you. Lisa Curtis, to you first. There is just so much happening every day in the United States of America that let's go one by one with this. Let's talk about the US aid first and how, US is really seeing this. There is the Trump administration, which is saying these are unnecessary expenditures. But obviously, the ripple effect will be felt across the world, including in India, because there were a lot of developmental projects that were going on with the help of and with partnership, in partnership with the US aid.
Well, I think there is a sense of shock among the USAID community. We are talking about not only the 15,000 employees at USAID itself, but also all the contractors, all the people who work for these organizations that are implementing these aid programs. And I think that a lot of, even though it's a review of the foreign assistance, it's a sort of 90-day stop work order, and they're reviewing all the programs. The reality is a lot of these programs won't survive if they're not implemented in the next 90 days. So they're taking a huge hit. U.S. foreign assistance is taking a huge, major hit. And the problem is that U.S. foreign assistance is actually a tool of U.S. foreign policy, and it's important for national security. And so I think there's a lack of understanding of how important this U.S. foreign assistance is for the U.S. to conduct its relations with other countries, to create goodwill with other countries, and to frankly save lives and help people on health issues and other challenges, poverty, famine, et cetera. So I think there is definitely a sense of shock about what's happening, and there's hope that Congress will step in, and that maybe we'll see a reinstatement of these foreign assistance programs. Clearly, the USAID as an organization, as we knew it, is not there right now. But there are still several questions about, is it actually legal that U.S. aid is disbanded. There's a lot of questions, and so we have not seen the end of the story quite yet.
Okay, you make an interesting point here, and Ambassador Sajjanhar, I would like you to come in on this. The fact that U.S. aid was used as a tool, it was started during the height of the Cold War as a counter to Soviet Union. There were economic and economic, technical, and military assistance that was provided by the U.S. to different parts of the world so that it could counter the Soviet Union. With now this being pulled out and this being frozen, do you think the China influence has the potential to increase? There is the BRI. There is also China's debt diplomacy that works. It has its own disadvantages. But the fact of the matter is that you're opening up space for China to dominate this area.
Yeah, thank you very much, Shreya. I agree with Lisa when she says that it's an instrument of the U.S. Foreign policy. It is the soft power of the United States. It goes out. It supports countries, particularly developing countries, helps them in areas, where there is need, whether it is education, health, environment, infrastructure, etc. And it's been doing that for many, many years, for actually many decades. And these programs are considered to be very valuable by the countries and by the individuals who have benefited from them. In fact, I have received a number of messages today from different parts of the world who have been sort of, rueing the fact that this has been taken away. So it is, as far as the United States is concerned, it's important. As far as the recipient countries are concerned, it's important. But, we need to see that as far as Mr. Trump is concerned, for him, obviously, soft power does not, have much significance, much relevance. He believes in hard power. That is what we have seen in the first 2 weeks when he has come in, whether it is with Colombia sending illegal migrants, whether it is as far as the Panama Canal is concerned, sending Marco Rubio there to have a discussion on Greenland.
Yeah.
So for him, it is hard power that is important. And hard power, not in terms of, going there and launching a military attack or something, but using economics, tariffs as, an instrument of pressurizing other countries. As far as India is concerned, last point I'd like to say.
Okay.
India will not really be affected very much because, in 2004, we ourselves had started cutting down from foreign aid. Anyone who was giving less than 25 million, we were not accepting that because, there were too many conditionalities that were attached to it. And the US aid has been making some contribution, but, in a budget of $1.7 billion that we have in education, US aid in education was just, about $1 million or so, or a couple of $1 million. So it's not really going to dislocate any of the programs. But I think there are countries around the world, more at a lower level of development who will feel the absence of it greatly.
Yeah. That's right. And, specifically the African continent, where several countries are dependent on U.S. aid for a lot of developmental works that go on there. Dr. Swasti Rao, amid all of this, the kind of concerns that not just India, but across the world people have as far as tariffs are concerned or other conditions that Donald Trump is putting in, you just had Donald Trump threaten and impose tariffs on Canada and Mexico. And then there was a deal that was struck with these two countries. And you, at least for the next 1 month, you don't have those tariffs coming their way. Therefore, do you think that, Donald Trump will soften his stand towards all of these concerns? And perhaps he's just using these threats as negotiating tools, as a barter system to get his way around. And it's not going to be a hard and fast rule in the near future as far as the conditions that he's putting in, regarding tariffs or any other condition that he's threatening countries with.
Good evening to you. And I think your reading is absolutely correct, in some sense, because yes, of course, you cannot understand Trump's halting of the foreign aid and development aid that goes out from America to other countries with the same lens that he has been using these extremely outlandish statements regarding Canada and Mexico, or his statements regarding Greenland. They are all done in a manner which is pretty similar. So that brashness, that strategic brashness that you suddenly see taking so much space in our strategic discourse, in fact, globally, has been something which is quite common to all these approaches. But yes, the strategic objectives are quite different. First of all, with respect to Canada and Mexico, like I've been also, earlier spoken on your channel as well, that basically there is a free trade agreement between these three countries, United States, Mexico, and Canada, which is going to be up for renewal in 2026. And in that particular agreement, what Trump wants is a better, I would say, more beneficial, arrangement for the United States. And he has been saying that the kind of trade deficit that the United States has been facing, with respect to Canada and Mexico, has been one of those concerns. And the kind of, his posturing that you see there is basically to get America a better deal. So that's one. In terms of Greenland, I've been maintaining again and again that obviously you will not see Donald Trump or America under Donald Trump annexing Greenland in the same way that you see another war happening in Europe at all. What you do see is that he has a correct reading of the fact that the Greenlanders themselves want to go for a referendum. Now, whether they do it or not is something that remains to be seen. But what it does show is that he is serious about, reinforcing America's oceanic frontiers, which has pretty much been America's forward posturing when it comes to its frontiers in the oceans. And he is very serious about America's influence in the Arctic Sea. Now, coming back quickly to US aid, let's understand that he has been, this is, I think, more or less also somewhere about a domestic audience, because he has put into place this Department of Governmental Efficiency, the DOGE. And ultimately, please understand that congressional Democrats have said that presidents alone, the US presidents alone, cannot eliminate congressionally appropriated federal agencies by executive orders. So one has to see whether this goes through or not. But please understand that in the larger perspective of how he has put an unprecedented 90-day freeze on foreign aid, and he has been also talking about getting the US aid under the Department of State, the DOS. And that is something that is perhaps aimed more at kind of cutting out the flab, cutting out wastage, as he has been saying, along with Elon Musk, and not about completely stopping the aid. And of course, this is not about military aid at all. So there is a lot of confusion, for example, in strategic circles about whether this also cuts off aid to Ukraine. And that military aid actually goes through the Department of Defense, the DOD, and not the DOS. But long story short, yes, there are certain unprecedented things happening in the US and globally. Of course, their impact will be felt. And like Ian Bremmer has been saying that, you've never really seen an American president that has really trying to spoil it with his own allies. So we will see how this kind of plays out. But for sure, I think Trump also has that kind of strategic prudence, which is hidden under all their strategic brashness, which is that he knows how far to push and when to pull back. So I think interesting times ahead, Shreya.
Which is what I was coming to next. Lisa Curtis, you can hate him, you can love him, but the fact of the matter is that he might be doing some unprecedented things, but he's getting his way around. He's getting what he aims to achieve for the United States of America. Would you give that credit to him? Because you had, Panama Canal saying that we are an autonomous region and we're not under the United States of America. Then you had Donald Trump threaten them to cut down on their Chinese influence, and they had their leader coming out and say, you know what, we're not going to renew our contract for China's BRI. So he's getting his way around with what he wants to do with America.
Well, I think that's true that there was some success in dealing with Panama and the Panama Canal issue. But I guess we also have to ask, did he need to make such threats, or could he have gotten Panama's attention in a different way? We don't know. But I think, look, President Trump wants to be a disruptor. He wanted to come in, make these changes. But I think now people are asking, well, how much disruption is too much disruption? And, people also want some stability. And People are also asking what's going to happen to the stock markets. There's a lot of concern about what will happen with the stock markets with so much disruption coming so quickly. So I think this is something that the Trump administration will have to consider moving forward. And just coming back to this very important idea of American soft power. You know, President Trump talks a lot about peace through strength, and this is why he wants to invest in the American military, and that is a good thing. He wants a strong military because he understands that you have to carry a big stick. But he also has been interested in negotiations to end wars. He's made that very clear. But, you know, there's another part of peace through strength, and that is, you know, a certain amount of benevolence. You know, being the global power, there is soft power that you can exude, and that should be exuded. And unfortunately, we've heard, you know, Trump administration officials saying in the case of the tariffs against Canada and Mexico that Canada and Mexico need the U.S. economy more than the U.S. economy needs Canada and Mexico's economy. That may be true, but that's not something that a global power needs to say. This is something that is understood. And I think, you know, these type of statements are things that you might hear from authoritarian powers like China or Russia. The U.S. is different. The U.S. is a different kind of power, and soft power is very much part of how we influence the rest of the world. And it's through a positive engagement. There's only so much confrontation that works when you are building relationships and trying to build your influence throughout the world.
You know, Lisa Curtis, what's also interesting is that the definition of what's authoritarian and who the global power is has really changed in the past few years, considering that Russia and China both are pushing each other in the geopolitical hierarchy. And perhaps Donald Trump wants to challenge that as well. But Ambassador Sajjanhar, to you, and my last question in this conversation, Prime Minister Modi is going to be visiting the United States of America. It is certainly going to be a crucial visit. We've seen some, you know, absolutely warm bonhomie between Donald Trump and Prime Minister Modi in the past. But with the kind of concerns that India has, what do you expect in this upcoming visit?
Yeah, you know, it's an excellent question. And let's say, you know, as far as Prime Minister Modi is concerned and India is concerned, we handled Mr. Trump, although he was unpredictable and unconventional in the first term also. And he was transactional at that time also. But I think Trump 2.0, in my view, is very, very different from Trump 1.0. The situation around in the world is very different. And Mr. Trump is much more confident, much more aggressive. He has surrounded himself with his loyalists who cannot say no to him. So, you know, I think it will be a challenging task, but Prime Minister Modi has the experience of, you know, 25 years being in governance. And he understands, you know, in terms of the gives and takes, there are these issues, you know, as far as the illegal migrants are concerned. We've said we have always been accepting them. This is not the first time that they are going to be coming here. Also on the issue of trade, I think we've taken the first tentative steps in our budget. We have reduced duty on Harley-Davidson. We are quite prepared to increase our imports of oil, gas, LNG from the United States. So I think all that, and technology transfer, defense, I think all those are, we will have to have some serious negotiations. But Shreya, permit me for just 1 minute what, you know, Lisa said, and I think she made very important points. But let me say that soft power and military strength are not oxymorons. They are not contrary to each other. You know, you can be militarily strong and still have a soft power, meaning United States in the past has always done that. I think what is changed is that Mr. Trump does not feel the need for alliances today. And so his focus is only on MAGA, make American great, make American strong. And he's trying to do that. But I think for it to be successful, the policy to be successful, on a long-term basis, you have to really have alliances.
Yeah.
You have to have partnerships. You have to have trusted relationships. And that is what Prime Minister Modi had said after his first conversation with Trump on the 27th of January, that we are looking forward to a trusted partnership, mutually beneficial and trusted partnership. And I think that for a long term, he's not
Okay.
president for 1 month or 6 months. He's president for 4 years. So I think a long-term view needs to be taken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And of course, the next 4 years, there will be a really wait and watch game, as is every day since he took office, since he assumed office for the second time. Let's wait and watch how the Donald Trump presidency 2.0 moves forward. I'll leave it there. Thank you very much to all of you, Lisa Curtis, Ambassador Sajjanhar, and Dr. Swasti Rao, for joining us and sharing your perspectives on what has been going on in the United States of America and, of course, India's concerns about it.